At the end of this video, something is going to happen. I got it. I have COVID. And just by listening to my voice, you probably figured that I have symptoms. So I did get quite far. I wanted to get a little further down the road for this particular video, but I'm going to stop it here and show you what I've built so far. And it has to do with the face frames. My shop is going to be closed for a week, maybe two. Depends how quickly I can recover, but it is what it is. I'm just not feeling great. Hey gang, Mark LeBlanc welcoming you back to the Alley Cat Workshop. Still working on the cabinet. We're up to the next phase, which is adding the face frame to the cabinets themselves. If you recall last time, I took this white oak, milled all my boards, some to final length, some to rough length, and I'm ready now to do the assembly. Before I do that, I took the time to do a little bit of prototyping and found out that there was a bit of a problem. So if you followed me so far, you'll know that this build has gone very, very well and very smoothly. This is the first time I'm hitting a problem. So I'm going to walk you through what that problem is, and in the second part, I'm going to show you how I am addressing this particular issue. So follow along. Like I said, small little mishap, but overall this thing is going very well, and yeah, let's work on the face frame. All right, so let me walk you through what I'm trying to accomplish here. I've taken the middle cabinet and the right cabinet, flipped them on the back, and actually screwed them together. So now I have, a common edge to work with to align my frames. And the first question I needed to address was, there is for example, on the right cabinet, there is a left edge to the frame. Where do I need to put it so that, this middle piece that I'm eventually going to build is going to meet up with it in the best way possible so that I have a nice tight joint, and that joint actually translates over to the face frame of the middle cabinet. And so what I did is I took a little bit of plywood and I figured out with a protractor, which is behind me, the angle of this particular joint. Turns out it's the miter is at 70 degrees. These two pieces are at 70 degrees. Same thing here for the bottom. It's a straight 70-degree joint, which gives me really nice miters across the board. And then, so once I had this side done, I transferred all these pieces over to the other side, and then I realized there's a bit of a problem here. And the problem is that my measurements, although they were pretty straight throughout, there's a bit of an error that was introduced somehow in the build. And so if I take this piece, for example, and I put it in the exact same position as with this side, then this piece is too long. So how am I going to fix that? This particular piece is a parallelogram. It's got two 70-degree angles. That's a pretty complex form. And this is going to mate up with a side frame which only has one side, which only has one side that is at 70 degrees. So what I decided to do is to take the left-hand frame, cut my 70-degree mark, but also taper it. So there's a slight taper from this end to this end. I'm losing 5/16 of an inch. And if I put it down, I know that there's a difference, but frankly, unless you knew about it, you just wouldn't see it. So I'm now ready to cut my left frame The right frame is already cut to size, and then I can start working on the rails and also on the middle stile. Once I've got all those pieces built, then I'll be able to use some pocket screws to assemble them, and then I'll be able to do work on the frame for the middle side.
As mentioned, I started with a perfectly square piece of 3/4 inch stock, 35 1/4 inch long, which is final length, and 3 inches wide. And that's one that I milled in my previous video. After tilting my saw blade to 70 degrees, I shaved off one of the sides of this piece of stock, and then I went to the bandsaw to cut the taper. I figured that by cutting the line, or just following the line with a nice sharp blade, I could get a good result, and frankly I was right. I finished the piece by cleaning up the tapered edge with my big bevel up hand plane. A couple of passes was all it took.
Alright, so ultimately I want the face frame on this cabinet to be square because there are doors that are going to be hanging over this. So I've laid a line from this edge over here on both top and bottom at 42 7/8 of an inch. I have my piece that is beveled here at a 70-degree angle and also tapered slightly to address the slight imperfections. And if I use my square over here, I have a perfectly square face for the rest of the cabinet. So whatever error was introduced here has been corrected. I'm good to go. All right, in order to work on the bottom frame, I'm going to leave this piece in place. I've added the rightmost frame and I put it very close to the edge. It's lined up with the edge. And so if I put this over, this is the bottom piece, it is just slightly long, just a bit. So I could go to my miter saw and start taking off a little bit, but I think in this case, because it's so minute, what I'm going to do is use my shooting board with my shooting plane and just nibble away at the material and get to my final length.
Once all the pieces were cut to final size, I set up my pocket hole jig and prepared all the pocket holes that are necessary for the assembly. Then I ran into a small logistical problem.
I made really good momentum on Monday, cutting all my pieces to final length, getting the angles squared away for the miters, all that. And I figured, okay, tomorrow, which would have been yesterday, I'll come in and I'll get all the pocket holes done and I'll screw all that together. And I got the pocket holes done, but then I realized that the pocket hole screws that I bought, or that I have, are for soft woods or plywoods. And considering the amount of money that I spent on the wood here, I figured, might as well go ahead and get the proper screws. So I found a place where they sold hardwood screws for pocket holes. Problem is, I bought the 1-inch ones, and they didn't have any longer than that. And reading on the back, the distance for a 3/4 inch thick piece of material, which is what I have here, they clearly recommend 1 1/4 inch. So I'll keep these for a later use. So I have to go back to the store, and I finally have 1 1/4 inch hardwood pocket hole screws. So hopefully I can get momentum going back in my favor and get stuff done today. That looks good. That looks very good.
All 3 face frames were built with the same approach, but I only had to contend with the error on the right cabinet frame. So the build for the other 2 face frames was really straightforward. Now, as with previous components of the build, My plan is to put some finish as I go along. So the first step here was to apply Saman number 112 dark oak stain on the outward facing or visible parts. My plan was then to apply 4 coats of finish on both the inside of the frame and the stained parts. That's when COVID hit me. I'll work on that soon, and my next video will cover how I attach these face frames to the cabinets and building the angled parallelogram pieces as well. Now, if you're still with me, appreciate you sticking around. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you have not done so. See you soon.